So these directions are going to be different for each of you, I guess. If you want to, I would like you to, but you do not have to. It does not affect your grade at all. I would like you to create your own logo, basic shape, and some words. I'm just going to create something very basic. I'm probably going to create this little face here and steal that, rip that off, use that as my logo. You can create this on your own too, not this logo. You can create this logo, any logo, or you can already use a logo or just use something very simple. So I'm going to use a logo, and when I say logo, I don't want anything fancy. I'm just going to use a simple shape, which I'm calling this face here, and then I'm going to have some basic text underneath it. Okay, and what we're going to do is sort of a recap from last time. We're going to use alpha and we're going to use scaling. So the scaling where we unlink the X from the Y, we're going to do that today. So I'm using a color palette right here. You can use a color palette if you like, or you can just use random colors that clash and look hideous together. That is up to you, completely up to you. And I'm going to start by going ahead and singing the praises of hot and spicy ramen, chicken flavored soup. And right now, I'm going to take a bite of this. So good. Hot and spicy. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and fit this up to the screen, and I'm going to get started. I'm going to scale this down. I'm going to delete ramen noodles, but not from my heart, just from the screen. Press S. Scale this down to the side. This is unnecessary in here. I'm just using this to steal colors from. And what I'm going to start doing, I'm going to lock that. I'm going to create a shape that I'm going to steal a color from. So I hit the fill here, the shape tool. Shortcut key is Q. I'm going to go in here, turn the stroke off at 0 pixels. I'm going to click on the fill. I don't want any stroke on these shapes. I'm just going to hit the eyedrop tool and steal this color right out of here. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors, which is perfect because I'm going to have 5 shapes. Okay, I accidentally made a layer here. I'm just going to delete it. Now I'm going to make a rectangle. Alright, that looks good enough for me. So what I'm going to do, after you make a rectangle, I'm going to go ahead and name this mint green descriptively so I can tell what it is when I'm doing the animation. I'm going to center the anchor point, Control at home. Okay. Now all I'm going to do is copy this, so Control D. Actually, let's Control D, and I'm going to press the move tool right here. I'm going to click on this and drag it over. I'm going to do this 5 more times. But before I do that, I'm going to click on this second shape right here. I'm going to click up on the fill, click the eyedrop, and I'm going to steal another color. Okay, now I'm going to call this light orange. Control D, duplicate it with the move tool. I'm just going to click on it, hold shift, move it over. Try to get the same amount of spacing in between these two here. And I'm going to go up, click the fill on this one, use the eyedrop tool, and steal the next color out. And I'm going to name that yellow. Okay, I'm going to do that again. Control D to duplicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So all I did right there to move that was hold shift on the keyboard and space it out with the arrow key, the right arrow key. That's probably the easiest way to make sure these are all the same. You could delete these again if you wanted to line them up perfectly, but I don't really care too much because that's close enough for me. So I'm going to go up here, hit fill, click the eyedrop, and steal the brown color. And then I have one more orange color to get. 1, 2, 3, 4. I want one more shape. After I rename this brown, Control D to duplicate, hold shift, use the right arrow key. 1, 2, whoops. Control D now. Control D, duplicate that layer. Duplicate the layer, hold shift. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now I'm going to click the fill again, and I'm going to steal that last color out of here. That is sort of a lighter orange. Let's call it peach for the heck of it. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to animate these layers they're simply going to pop up on the screen at different times. This animation is taking place within the matter of 3 seconds. If you press Control K, it's just 3-second animation. I'm going to change that, let's say 5 seconds, just in case I want to go a little bit beyond that. If you want to change the color of your background, just press Control K, change the background color here. And I want these to pop in at different times. I'm going to select them all at once, holding Shift. I'm going to click on the bottom layer here. So I click on the top, hold Shift, click on the bottom. I want them all to at least not to start coming in until 5 frames. Let's press play and see what that looks like. Okay, that is good. Let's check and see what 10 frames looks like. Okay, I want 10 frames instead, and I want these to pop in at different times. So I'm going to deselect them, clicking anywhere on the screen, and I'm just going to click on them at 5-frame intervals. I'm going to move these kind of randomly so they pop in, and then I'm going to check it. They're all going to pop in at different times, giving them 5-frame intervals, and I'm going to check the play there and see what that looks like. Okay, now I want the first one to pop in first, so that's going to come over here, and now this is going to go here. Check it and see what it looks like. Okay, I'm just going to switch this out with that. This here, and this back. Not that it matters. Okay, I'm just going to undo that because that looked bad. Now this is all preferential here. This is kind of insignificant. And the background it's kind of the same tone as these colors, so I'm going to go ahead and press Control K and make it white so these colors pop out a little bit more. That looks better. There we go. All right. So the timing on that is okay. I'm going to go ahead and pre-compose these layers here because that's all I want them to do is pop in at different times. So I'm going to click on the very top layer, hold Shift, click on mint green here. I'm going to press Control Shift C and name these rectangles. And now, since this is in the screen, I can press Control Alt Home, Control Home, center this. It looks like it's good. All right, now what I'm going to do is put an alpha matte on this. I'm going to have an alpha matte come from the bottom and go up and wipe these colors away. So making sure that this layer is deselected, I'm just going to use the rectangle tool. The color is insignificant because it's not going to be turned on. I'm just going to make it red so it pops out and it's easier to see. Making sure that the rectangle is taller than the shapes up here. I can go ahead and just make sure that's evidently clear. And then when these shapes pop up, I'm going to animate the mask. Going up, let's say the shapes are all in at 1 second, so at 1 second and 10 frames, this is all preferential. I can change it in the end just by adjusting the keyframes. I'm going to press P, turn on the position at this point, and drag it 10 frames to cover up these shapes. Okay? And now what I am doing is holding Shift while I move this so it moves in a straight line. I could have centered the anchor point if I wanted to, but that's alright. So I'm going to check the timing of this and see if it looks alright. Okay, I'm going to click on this and name this top matte. And now I'm going to change the alpha matte here to alpha inverted matte top. And remember, if you don't have the option here, you can press F4 on your keyboard and you'll get that option. So deselect everything, go down here and see what it looks like when I press play. These pop in and then it goes away. And now what I want to do is recreate the logo that I see here. Not completely. I'm just going to do it quick so this video is not a million miles long. I'm just going to create basic stuff here. I'm going to go ahead and lock all this stuff because I don't want any of that to change now. I can go ahead and unlock more. Alright. So I want to make a black circle with no fill, and the stroke would be black. Let's go ahead and make this 5. Check the scale here. Okay, that looks good. Probably make the stroke 10. Change the scale a little bit, and then center the anchor point. Control home, Control home. Okay, change the stroke from 10. This is again all preferential. You don't have to do this. I'm just going off of what I think looks best. 5 looked okay. I'm going to duplicate this layer here after I rename this. So this is going to be, press enter, outer circle. changing again just to make those people mad that like to follow along and don't like to change things. Change the stroke to 7. Now this right here, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate. And my wife just texted me and wants to know where her keys are at, and I have to tell her that she put them on the kitchen table. Alright, back to this. So I have the outer circle here. I'm going to press Control D for the inner circle. I'm going to press enter, name this inner circle. And I'm going to press S for scale, and I'm just going to change the scale inside a little bit. And now this is where I'm going to put the face. So I'm going to make an eye for a circle for an eye here. Making sure all these layers are deselected. I'm just going to go ahead, turn on the fill, make it black, turn the stroke down to 0, and hold shift to make a circle here. I'm going to zoom in so I can make sure it looks alright. Now this isn't going to be exactly the same as the logo, but it's going to be similar. So I'm going to duplicate that, hold shift, move it over, and I'm just going to go ahead and make my own version of this without even looking. I think the smile goes something like this. When I'm making a shape, I want to turn the fill off. Click on that, turn that off, make the stroke 4. Alright, that's good enough. And now I'm going to deselect these layers, and I'm going to make some hair. Whoops. Alright, this isn't exactly the same as the logo, but it is good enough. And I'm going to turn the fill on in this, make it black. There we go. That's good enough for me. I could make it change if I wanted to, because it kind of is bothering me. But that's alright. So to change this, if you did want to change it, you can use the pen tool and adjust the anchor points. But I'm just going to go ahead and say that that is a really ridiculously bad version of the logo. Alright, that's okay for me. I'm good with that. I'm trying to do this quick. Now I'm going to go ahead and select all the layers that make up that face, and I'm going to press Control-Shift-C and just name it face. Now that is a pretty ugly face that I made, but that's alright again. Change the scale down here. And now I'm going to add my text. So that's going to be the shape of the logo, and this is the text. Next, and I'm just going to call this I'm just typing some words here. I want it to be 2 words. So changing the font size here so it all fits in. Press Control A to select it, make it just a little bit smaller, and alright, so Control A, I want this to be, let's see if I can make it bold. There we go. Alright, so this right here is good for me, and I'm going to center this anchor point, Control Home to center it, make sure it's centered exactly, and I'm going to move this down, and I'm going to change the scale a little bit so it fits in within the bounds of this stuff here. So on the text, I'm going to press S, unlock the chain there, and make it just a little bit thinner. And possibly move it over a bit, because it doesn't look like my shape's centered that well. Alright, this right here is what I'm going to do. I could do a better job, I understand that, but this is what we're rolling with. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is compose these layers as well. So holding the face, I can get rid of these colors. So I'm going to select the face and the text while holding Control. Press Control Shift C and name this logo. Alright, and I'm going to go inside of this. You know what, just for the people that don't like to do things over and undo them, I'm going to undo that. Control Z to deselect that. I'm going to go ahead and use a rectangle tool. So the shortcut key for that is Q. And I'm going to choose a color that stands out. Red again. And I'm going to put the mask down here. And I'm going to name this, enter. I'm going to call this face mask. And I'm going to press Control D and duplicate it. And I'm going to call this text mask. I'm going to turn them both off. And now I'm going to select Dr. Skylark Malarkey and face, and I want them to move onto the screen once this shape at the top, the rectangles, have completely gone away. And I want them to move from the bottom of the screen up here. So I'm going to press P for position. I'm going to use the move tool, and I'm going to select them both and just move down. Let's turn this on to see if I'm completely covered up. I am not. So I'm going to continue to move down in here. All right. Now I'm going to turn that off. And now what I have to do is click position, and I want these to move in rather fast, 5 frames, back up into position. And now I'm going to drag the scroller back to see if that's good placement. Okay, that's pretty good. This happens a little too slow for me, so I'm going to move these keyframes back to the left so they start at 15 frames. Same with these on the bottom. Alright, and I want the text to come up just a little bit after the face does. So I'm going to go ahead on the text and drag it to the right a little bit so it comes up after the text. Alright, and then I'm going to click on the second keyframe, press F9 so it eases in. There we go. That's pretty nice looking. And now all you have to do is select the text mask and drag that above the text, and the face mask and drag that above the face mask layer, and then change the face to alpha inverted and change the text to alpha inverted. And now here's the animation. Pretty easy. If you had any trouble with any of it, all you have to do is go back and simply rewatch anything you had an issue with. You have the luxury of slowing down the time, pausing, and going back. I'm going to animate this going back down where it was. Very simple. So pressing P, I'm going to go ahead and click this keyframe here, Control C, Control V. Go ahead, 5 frames, Control C and Control V that. I'm going to do the same thing on the face layer down here, pressing P. The text goes first, and then I want the face to go. So clicking this second keyframe here, Control C, Control V, go ahead, 5 frames, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with page down, Control C, Control V, and then test it out. Alright, drag these a little to the right. I don't like how quick it disappears. There we go. That's pretty much it. I'm going to stop the video here. I'm going to play it so you can see what it looks like. Fit it up to 100% and press play. There we go. Pretty easy alpha matte